Okay, hey guys. Today we're going to continue on with part 3 of my third video of the Razorblade. So we're going to be in the part 2 and part 3 of the tutorials. So we just finished making the back piece, and we made our little micro fillets right here. So what I'm going to start off right now is making the top hat. I call this the top hat. And we're going to extrude that as a solid through the Razorblade body. And then we'll do a Boolean difference or a solid difference to make the slot. And then that's the end of part 2. All right, so I'm going to get my workspace set up. So I'll go into 4 viewports, right side view. I'm going to turn off the back piece. I'm first going to make a new layer. I'm going to call it top hat. I'll activate it, hide the back piece, and I'll change the color here. Top hat. I'll make it cyan for now, I guess, temporarily. So, all right, in the tutorial, they have you put in all these precise sizes. And since they didn't give us dimensions on how to make the other parts, this doesn't really apply. So we're going to just make our own fit. Okay. One thing to take note is that the towards the north side of the top hat, it's going to be a little bit shorter than the south side of the top hat. Okay. So I'm going to take a rectangle tool, and with no snaps on, I'm going to get close to the corner of my fillets here, and I'm going to make my first slot right here. So you just don't want to touch any of your fillets, okay? And then I'm just going to pause this for a second. I want to make sure that I am okay. Let's see. One sec. Okay. So I made my rectangle, and now I'm going to make another rectangle. And again, I want the south side here to be a little bit tall, like longer than the north side. So I'm going to make another rectangle like that. I'll drag it over just a little bit. Okay, yeah, that's good. Okay, and I don't want to hit this seam right here, or this seam right here. I'll move this over just a little bit more, I think. Right there is good. Okay, so now we're going to do a double trim. So trim, cutting object is the top rectangle. Enter, objects to trim is the bottom rectangle. Then I'll trim again by right-clicking. Cutting objects is the bottom rectangle. Enter or right-click. Objects to trim is this. And then join the two up. Okay, this curve, my top hat is over here. And I will do a solid extrude planar curve straight. You're going to make sure that both sides is no, or else you wind up extruding on both sides. So both sides equals no, and extrude it right through it. Okay, so fingers crossed when I go to do my solid difference is that everything is going to work out okay. So solid difference, or Boolean difference. Select solids to subtract from is going to be the blue. Select solids to subtract with. This time, I want it to be deleted. I don't need to keep this. So delete. What I'm subtracting with is this piece, and when I hit enter, it's going to delete it. All right, success. So what I got is my nice slot right here. Okay, so I'll take this curve and then just move it into my curve layer. All right, let's go on to let me close off part 2 and go on to part 3. And this is like the hardest part, in my opinion, is the blade holder. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a thick rail with a slot in the middle. You can see the remnants of the top hat here. And then we're going to do a thin rail with the same slot. Okay, so they're saying like the same size slot. And then we're going to copy 2 thin rails in the front over here, and then 1 thick rail here, 1 thick rail all the way in the back. It's hard to see. It's probably even harder to see on your screen, but there's 1 on the blade, thin rail. There's another thin rail right at the corner of the blade holder. Then just about touching the blade body is our first thick rail, and then the last thick rail is just outside. Okay, and we're going to use those to loft the shapes into a blade holder. And we're going to turn on straight sections so it'll be nice and like industrial looking. It won't be all pillowy. It's going to go thin to thin to thick to thick. We'll get this nice blade holder. So let's see how we can do this. So I'm going to go back into my right side view. I'll do full size right side view. And I'm going to make 2 new layers. I'm going to do a thick rail and actually, you know what I'll do is, since I'll do thick rail and what do I have not used it? Maybe I'll make it brown, and then thin rail, another color I haven't used. Don't ever use yellow. Okay, maybe I'll have to make my own custom color. I'll do like an orange. All right, cool. So they have us, you know, they wanted us to make these fillet radiuses of 1 millimeter and all these unique sizes. We're just going to match their 0.4 millimeter thickness of the blade holder. So 0.4 millimeter thickness, 0.4 millimeter thickness. So I'm going to use a rounded rectangle. It's the last tool here in the rectangle tool. And I start, it says first corner. So I'm just going to get up close to the corner here. Don't touch it. Just get up close to it. And oops, I got to be in the thick rail layer. And then I'll put it right over here. And I'm going to bend it in. I guess pretty, you know, I think that's good. You don't want to go too narrow with your fillet. So that was a rounded rectangle. And then I'm going to do a curve, offset curve, offset curve. So I'm going to offset it by 0.4 millimeters. Okay. So I had just done this earlier in the day, so it remembered my last setting. And there's my thick rail. So I'm going to now do a thin rail. So activate thin rail, rounded rectangle. I'm going to try to line up to the best of my abilities the corners or edges. That's pretty close. And I'll just line this up here. And I'll then bend in the fillet to try to match it. Okay, pretty close. And then I should probably turn off my thick rail. I'll take this one and do a curve, offset curve, offset curve. Whoops, I just realized what I did. I didn't make a, I made 2 thick rails. Sorry. So let me try that again. Here's my thick rail. it's going to be a thin rail, so it's not going to go all the way to the bottom. So I'll make it like that. I think that's pretty good. And then now I'll do a curve offset curve. Okay, and the lights just turned off on me. Sorry guys, curve, offset curve, offset curve, offset it by 0.4. Okay. Now I have to make the slot. So I'm gonna go back to the tutorial, and here's the top hat, and it looks like the slot is kind of like pretty even in the center of the top hat. So I'm gonna take a rectangle tool, and I'm just gonna kind of make one right here. So I think that that's pretty even. I guess you can kind of say cut it into thirds. Let's look at theirs. 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. Yeah, it's pretty close. Okay. And I'm going to trim everything out. So trim, start the trim command. Cutting objects is this, and I'm just going to trim all of these curves. And I'm going to delete this thing. All right, you can turn layers off if you want. So I have my thin rail as active. So I'll just hide the thick rail. And I'm going to turn on my endpoint snap. So endpoint snap on, okay? If you don't have the visible object snaps, turn it on. Endpoint snap on. It'll allow you to snap to the end. And then snap to the end, like this. And then join these up. 1, 2, 3, 4. It'll flash, 4 curve, join to 1 closed curve. I'll activate the thick rail section, hide the thin rail, and do the same thing. End to end, right click, end to end, and then right click, and join up. Okay, so let me see if I can get the lights on. There we go. So now what I have to do is place them. So I'm going to activate my thin rail, hide my thick rail, and my thin rail is right here on the construction plane, the YZ construction plane. It's like this imaginary construction plane here. So the tutorial said they wanted one on the blade and then one right at the corner of the blade holder here. So I'm going to take this one, and then while holding shift, I'm going to drag it over so it's on the blade. And now it's still highlighted. I'm going to start the copy command. And it says, where do you want to copy it from? I'm going to just go right down here, actually, in the gray. Click. Where do you want to copy it to? Now, if I don't hold down ortho, you can see it's, look in the perspective over here. It's getting all crazy. So hold down shift so that it's a nice, even, smooth, ortho-locked copy. So I'll put it right here. And then now I'm done, so I'm going to hit enter. So I've got my 2 thin rails, one on the blade, one at the corner, right over here of the blade holder. And then I'm going to turn on my thick rail, activate it. I'm going to take it, and the last one I dragged, I'll just show you move. So it's selected. I'm going to start the move command. Point to move from. Again, I'll do it somewhere off because I have my endpoint snap on. I'll just do it like this. Hold down shift. This one goes right about touching the Razorblade body. So it's right here. Theirs is right over there. Okay, and then it's still selected. Well, now it's not selected. So it's selected. I'll copy it. Point to copy from. Point to copy to. I'll bring it all the way out. Okay, so I have my 2 thin rails, my 2 thick rails. Okay, so in the perspective, you should see it like this. I did it that way so I didn't leave any of the originals on the construction plane, and it won't mess me up. And you can kind of envision I'm going to try to flow a surface through this one, into this one, down into this one, and then over into this one. So let's try it. surface loft. Okay, now I will say that it's 50-50 if this is going to work. Okay, so I'm going to click on the same spot of each one. So I'm going to go on the top corner right here. I'll do the next one right there, next one right there, and then next one right there. Okay, fingers crossed. Wow, I got lucky. So what you want is, it's the best, is if your arrows are in the same spot and they're all pointing in the same direction. Usually that's a good sign. Sometimes the direction of the curve is flipped or the arrow's in the wrong spot, and we have to we can adjust the arrow like it's telling me here. I can flip it. You can see it wants to flip it. Drag seam to adjust. I don't have to do it, okay? So I'm gonna hit enter to accept that. And so this is the normal loft, right? It's like more, and it just, so we want to change this into a straight section loft. I'll do a preview. Now you can see it. You can even hide the blue layer. You can really see the surface just flow right through there. It's pretty cool. And I'll hit OK. Okay, so that's great. So how about I'm going to make a new layer. So you know what? I have top hat, but top hat is gone. So I'm going to actually take the top hat layer. I'm going to call it blade holder. And I'll take this surface and put it into my blade holder. And then I could actually hide the thick rail and thin rail. Okay? This is an open surface. I don't know if you can see it. It's, if I were to angle it in there, I could probably see like right through. You know, you can see a little gray right there. It's hollow, that's what I'm saying. So we have to trim it up and then close it to make it into a solid. So what they do here is they have us make these two funky shaped blocks, and then they want us to do a solid difference, and then you get the closed leftover of the blade holder. I'm not a big fan of doing solid difference with starting with an open surface. I would rather just do extrude a surface. I don't need this other part here, and then extrude a surface and just do a double trim. So that's what we're going to do. Okay. So in my top view, I'm going to make another boomerang line. Okay. And I'm going to adjust mine a little bit. My blade holder is awfully wide, and I'll show you why. When I made these curves, I think I tried out their curve editing feature, and my Razorblade is definitely wider than the Sketch. I will just show you what it's supposed to be, but I want to keep the continuity of the video lesson. So if I look at like my cohort A from today, you could see that my shape it conforms to this better, because I just did a curve blend curve in here. So my blade holder would be a little bit more precise. But I'll stick with this and hope that it works okay. So I'm going to take a boomerang, and I'm going to take my endpoint snap off so it doesn't give me any problems. I want to make sure that if I were to project this, it's going to go into the transition of the curves here. So I'm going to move mine a little forward. Yours, hopefully you can make yours and it won't get cut off. But you just don't want to go through this first transition here where it goes from thin rail to thick rail, because then it's going to cut off right where it goes from thin and starts going into thick rail. I hope that makes sense. So I'm just going to go like this. I will trace it, and I'll just move it out of the way. So I didn't like that curve. I'll hit escape. Let me do less points. I'll do control point curve, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There we go. So now these are pretty straight. And then I'm just going to drag this with ortho so that it's not touching that first iso curve. And I'm still going there, so I'll drag even more forward. There we go. That's better. Okay. So I will take this and do a surface extrude curve straight. And I'm going to do both sides yes. So both sides equals no, change it to both sides yes. And then I'll extrude it right up. Let me turn off the Razorblade body so you guys can really see this. Okay, and so here it is. And I'm going to do a double trim. Trim. Cutting objects is this, enter. Objects to trim is the front of it, enter. Now I want to get this little sliver, this little ribbon right here of a surface that I could use to join to this. So I'm going to now do trim. Cutting objects is the back of the blade holder. Objects to trim is the outside of this, enter. And now look what I have. I know it's hard to see, but there is a little ribbon of a surface right there. And I can join that to this. So I'm going to join that ribbon, click on the iso curve with that, and then hit enter. It didn't flash because it's still open in the back. It's still an open surface in the back. There's no ribbon here yet. Okay? So that's the way I like to do it. I'm going to do the same thing for the back. All right, so I'm going to use our old boomerang line. I think it'll be okay. Yeah. Okay, so this one. And I'll do a surface extrude curve straight. I'll hide my curves now since I don't need them anymore. Might as well throw this into my curve layer. And I will do a trim. Cutting objects is the surface. Objects to trim is the back of the blade holder. And then same thing, trim. Cutting objects is the blade holder. Objects to trim is this. And so now you have, it's a little strange looking. Again, it's because I made that mistake. This little ribbon. Okay, so I'm going to join this to the little ribbon, and it flashed. Now I have a closed solid. Very cool. All right. We are now going to try to do the squigglies. Okay, so let's see what we're at in part 3. Oh, we're going to fill at the front edge. All right, good. I'm going to fill the front edge, and I think maybe I'll end the video on that because that was a lot. So they're asking us to do a 2 millimeter north fillet and a 3.5 millimeter south fillet. And they actually also want us to make a little notch in the back, right back here, and make this little notch here. Then we get into the squigglies, the dreaded squigglies. So I'm going to come up in here. It's so important that you join everything up. So click on it, go to object properties. It should tell you it's closed. Okay, so let's try this. Solid fillet edge. Fillet edge. Again, it wanted a 2 and 3.5. So I'm going to do a radius of 2. I'm going to go right up, right over here. You got to click on this vertical edge. That's the handle. It looks like it should work. Okay, so I'll hit enter. I'll hit enter again. Success. That looks good. I got to tell you, I'm concerned about this one because it's got this little curl in it. And I feel like I could get a a failed fillet. Like it may not be able to calculate that it needs to just cut that off. So let's do it again. Solid fillet edge. Radius of 3.5. Select this vertical edge. Whoa, that's pretty big. Okay, let's see. No. Oh, it did it. Well, what did it do? Is that just an ISO curve? Let me go into a render display. No, it did it. I don't trust it. I'll do a 3-inch radius there. Solid, I mean a 3mm radius. Fillet edge. We're at 3.5. Let's change it to 3. Hopefully we lose that ISO curve. That was. Okay, good. That looks a little cleaner. Okay, so I'm going to put together a nice Google quiz for you guys. And there's our blade holder and our blade. Oh, I got to do the notch in the back. Just when you thought I was done. So I'm going to put the body on here. I'll go into a shaded display. And you can just kind of imagine that I need a notch right here. Okay, so I'll go into a ghosted, nope, a wireframe. So you can use this, that's where the notch is, as a guide. But in essence, I just want to make my notch and not go past this line right here, which is the edge of the Razorblade body. So I'll make I guess can I activate my curve layer? Yeah, why not? I'll go like this. I'll make a polyline and just gonna go this, click, shift all the way through so it's nice and straight. This one doesn't matter. Just make sure you don't hit this line and just come right back. So here's my curve. I'm going to just drag it up with ortho in the right side view. So see how it's floating inside the blade holder? Now I can extrude a solid. Both sides no, because if I try to get it all the way through the top, it goes into the bottom. So I'm going to say both sides equals no. Extrude it up. So you can see now, this is what I just did. And then do a solid difference. Subtract from the blade holder, subtract with the notch solid, and then hit enter. And there you go. Okay, do they tell us to fill it? No, I think we should fill it. I'm going to fill it. So let me hide my curves. And let's see if I can just fill it a little bit. Solid, fillet edge. I'll do a radius of 1. This one. Whoops, not that one. Control click. I want that one. And I think that's it. So enter, enter. Yeah, that looks nicer. Cool. All right, getting a nice industrial design here. Now I'll save. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope that wasn't too long. I will see you in class.